Welcome CSE 121 W1 to exercise 24C. We're going to continue the 24C exercise, and we're going to still work in Python Anywhere, and we're going to work with SQL queries. So we're getting away from Python, but then we're going to get back into Python with databases. So I just want to explain some things in this episode that we're working on right now. So I'm in Python Anywhere, and I'm in the dashboard right now. And one thing I want to point out, that because this jumps around from different areas and it'll close out windows, that it might be best when you go into Files to right-click on it and say Open in New Tab. And that way you have access to your files here. Remember, in databases we created a folder called 24 States, and there's files in there, and we'll just make some more files in the regular databases, not inside of 24 States. We could just make them loose in here, and we make files over here, we make directories here. But then also when we work in databases, we could go over here, and I'm also going to open that up in a new tab so that we can kind of go back and forth here. Now, we don't really need the dashboard open, but I just want to show something. If we have files here, and remember, we went into here, and you should have already have done this, and we used this statement in the MySQL interpreter to create a table, and we used this statement, this insert into, we used this statement all the way to the bottom to insert 50 states into our states database. And remember, our states database is with a small s, like that, and our table is a capital S, and that's usually the process that we use. So we populated our database with a table of states. So our table has order ID as a field, state as a field, abbreviation as a field, or ABR, year established. And notice these are all lowercase and there's no spaces. So we're using an underscore in these. So order ID, state, abbreviation, year, and these fields were created up here. Order ID, state, abbreviation, year established, size, and population. Okay, so that's where everything was created. Basically our structure. This is our structure of our table, and this is the data that's in our table, or the records that are in our table, and there's 50 records in there right now. So we did all that, so we have that set up, and that's in my files right now. So I'm going to just go back to databases right now because we're going to make a file, and I mean the databases directory that we were in. This is the databases kind of area in Python Anywhere, and I'm going to go over here to database settings, and I just want to point out a couple things. Here's our host address, our username. Here's our database name. That includes your username, a $, and the name that you gave it. And hopefully that worked out okay in the previous exercise that you're working on for 24B. And we're going to talk about MySQL is a type of relational database, but SQL is a structured query language to actually query through a database, and basically you can create, update, revise, you can delete. CRUD is the name that you'll see sometimes for that, but there's a lot of things you could do. Basically, you're managing a database, so you can be extracting information from it, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing. We're going to navigate through the database with queries, and that's what SQL does. So I just want to point that out. Now, if I go to SQL, here's SQL. I'm not in Python, I'm in SQL. We'll find a lot of detailed kind of statements here. We'll do our select statement, which basically means select all from. Now, what does all mean? That means all fields. So that shows all the fields along the top, and in our case it's order ID, state, abbreviation, and all those things. So that means all fields. You could pick out separate fields to display from your table when you do that. So we'll talk about that. There's where, which is a clause where you could say where population is less than something, or size is greater than something. You can order by, so that you can put it order by size. You could see the largest states in terms of population, in terms of size, whatever. You can insert into. We're not going to be insert anything into right now. You could have like. There's like down here where you can actually find all the states that begin with the letter P, all the states that begin with the letter N or begin with N-E-W. You know, how many states have new in them? New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, etc. New Mexico, there's a bunch of them. So anyway, there's different ways you can actually filter information from a database, and there's all kinds of things here. Now, we're not going to go through all of that. This isn't a database class, but we're going to do these queries in Python. So basically, all the queries that are here, we just put them in quotes in Python. That's all we do. So we're going to be connecting with Python to a server and returning our results. So we're going to be doing that with SQL, but also I just want to point out when you go to Python, there's Python SQL. If you scroll down, Python MySQL, and it's just a little more limited. You'll see some of the same things, but they're a little more limited, and all it is really, like if I go to where here, it's really, here's the query that I just showed you through SQL, but it's just kind of embedding it inside of Python. So that's what we're going to do eventually. But before I do that, I want to go over some SQL because it's helpful to know SQL. Maybe you had a database class, maybe you did not, but it's helpful to know SQL, and it's really not that hard. It's fairly easy because it's really a table. You're just going through a table and finding information. So if you've ever used Excel or anything like that, it's really not that hard. So I'll go over a couple SQL queries just so you understand what they're about, so that when we do them inside of Python, you understand that this is the query in quotes. That's why if you have quotes on the outside, they use single quotes on the inside. So we're going to do that a little bit. So this will basically be the structure that we'll use to do this stuff. So we're still extracting with SQL, but instead of doing it in the interpreter, the SQL interpreter, we're going to do it with Python. Now let's do it with the interpreter first. I'll just review some of that in this part of the video, and then in later parts we'll actually use the Python. But for now, let's just go over SQL. So how do I do that? Well, let me put this on SQL right now just so we can cheat and find some of these things here. I'm going to go to database, and now I'm going to go into my database because right now you could do SQL right into your database. So I'm going to click on here. Now watch what happens. Console limit reached. That means I have too many consoles open. That's okay. It says kill some consoles on your consoles page. All right, kill them. Kill them. Okay, no consoles open. I'll go back to databases. And notice I'm still in this tab. I still have my dashboard. I still have my files. I don't necessarily need dashboard open, but it makes me feel good to have it open. It's like a home base there. And I'll go back here. And let me point this out. This is not a real modern IDE. So if you're like, wow, compared to Replit, this really sucks. Now, it's not anything like Replit. It's very bare bones. It's just not the same. If you go through your forums, you'll see people complaining about it and stuff. But what I like about it is it's simple, and I can get into it very easily, and you can create an SQL database, and you can't do that anywhere else. Even in Replit, they make you go to some free SQL site and create something, and it never worked. So you can do that here, and you can learn about it a little bit. So it's a little more kind of bare bones, but it's free, and it usually works pretty well. And I'm not going to complain about it. It's a good way to learn about SQL. So anyway, now that I have that killed, I'm going to go here and just launch that, and that will launch the database and the MySQL interpreter. And we did that in the previous exercise. It says loading MySQL interpreter. And there it is. There's the prompt to get started. Now, what do I want to do here? Well, the best thing to do when you get started, let's go to SQL, is they have the basic one here, select all from customers. Copy that. Let's just copy it, and I'll go here into the interpreter. I'll paste it. Now remember, you have to kind of go back here and delete, and I'm going to put states, and I'll put a semicolon. Now this is our SQL statement. This is our query statement, and this means select all fields from states. So this will show us our whole table. So this should show all the fields from states and show everything. So if I hit my prompt, if I hit enter here, it'll show everything. And there it is. So there's my table. And it has order ID, state, abbreviation, year established, size, and pop. So I have 6 different fields up here at the top. And sometimes they're called columns. I call them fields. I think that makes more sense. Sometimes you'll hear them called columns. I think in SQL they call them columns, but I'll call them fields. It's same difference. And right now they're in order by order ID. Let's say you wanted to order them by alphabetical. You would order them by state. And you could do it by abbreviation or state. I guess it'd be better off to do it by state, depending on what the 2 letters are. So I'll order it by state. And what I do down here is I do the same thing. Now, I think you can hit the up arrow. If you hit the up arrow, it'll do the last query you just did. And you can also white this stuff out, but I'll keep this here just to see it. And it says select all from states. And before the semicolon, I'll kind of backspace here. And then I'll hit a space, and I'll do order by. And I want to order by state. And I'll do a semicolon. And I don't think I need a quote in there to do that, for that. And let's just check. Let's go to SQL and let's look at order by. They'll have order by in here. It should be near the top. Order by. And it's order by country. So they're not using quotes in here. Now that's for this database. And you can also put descending and ascending. So it'll do ascending by default, and then if you want it descending, it'll go backwards. But right now, in alphabetical order, it'll do it ascending, and that should be what we want. So that way we don't have to put ascending. So we'll just select all from states, order by state. Let's see what happens. It should put like Arizona, Alaska, whatever Alabama, I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out. That's why we're doing it. And I'll hit enter. And Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. So there's 4 with A, there's 3 with C, there's 1 D, and so on. So now it's ordered by state. And I'm not sure if they would have worked out perfectly because they don't use the letter that's after it. But we could order by what's the most populated state? What's the largest state? You should know that. Alaska and Texas, California are some of the bigger states. Check it out so you could learn about geography. And I could just hit my up arrow and I could order by, and then I'm just going to backspace with my delete key and put order by size. And it'll go smallest first, because right now if I did it, it would go smallest first. So if I backspace and I do DESC, that should do the largest first. So order by size descending, and that should go backwards. So it should put the largest first. Ascending would put the smallest number first, so it'll do it in order just like alphabetical. But that should put the largest states first. So let's see what the largest states are. I went up too far. It's this one. Here's the one I need to see, size. And it's Alaska, Texas, California, Montana, New Mexico, Arizona. And there's no ranking in here. You can actually put numbers by these if you want to, but we don't have to get into ranking them right now. But Alaska, Texas, and let's say you just wanted to see the top 5. You didn't care about any of these others, or you want to see the top 10. You could do the same thing here by descending, and then you could put limit. And you might be thinking, well, where'd you find limit? We'll just go here. Limit, it's one of the ones pretty soon. Where's limit? I'm not sure why they're showing limit, unless limit's here under order by. I know I saw it in the Python one. Here's the Python one. MySQL, again, I'm not sure why I'm missing this, but I thought they showed, here's limit. Now, we're not using Python yet, but it just limit you how many. So you could do limit 10. And that's all you have to do. So let me go back here. Limit 10. So the top 10 you could do. And there's the top 10. Alaska, Texas, California, Montana, and Wyoming. So most of them are out west, some of the bigger ones. And population. You want to see the top 10 population or top 5 populated states. Backspace here. And I'll just do pop. Then I'll do descending so it does the most populated. And then I'll do limit, and I'll do 5. So this is saying select all, and maybe I don't want to see everything. Maybe I don't want to see size. Maybe I just want to see, actually I could do this too. I could put select state. Wait, I can't just type it in like that. I'm sorry. So I want to use my cursor, backspace here. I'm not deleting, I'm just using my cursor, because remember, I can't just click my cursor in here, and I'm going to backspace now. And I'll say select, actually I could put abbreviation first. Abbreviation, ABR, comma, and I'll put state, and then I'll put pop, and then I have to put a space. Is that right? I think I could delete that. As long as I have a space in there. And then I'll move my cursor with my arrow to the front, and I'll select abbreviation, state, pop. I'm not even putting the order ID in there. So that means it's only selecting these 3 fields from states, and it's ordering by population, descending, and then limit 5. And notice the only time I have commas is in between the column names. And let's see what happens. And there we go. Abbreviation, California, Texas, Florida, New York, PA. Wow, I didn't know Pennsylvania was the 5th most populated state. A lot of old people in PA. I can attest to that. A lot of old people in PA. And Florida, too. A lot of people retire and go to Florida and Pennsylvania. So those are the top 5 populated states. So we're basically extracting information from the database when we do this. So that's SQL queries. It's not that hard. You just got to go through it and find it and know what you need. And you could even search, you don't always have to use this. You could just say, how do you find something that starts with something? Let's say you want to find all states that start with N. That's actually like. I'll go back to SQL. That's something called like. And it's just getting familiar with it. If you're not familiar with SQL, you're going to have to look around. But right now, I could do like. And here's all the like things. And start with something. They use a percentage after it, meaning it starts with A and then anything after it. So, and you could put a couple letters there. So it just means there's going to be other letters after it. So, and you could do things that end with a letter or have certain letters in them. So we're going to do basically like, and then we have to do the letter, and we have to put it in a quote. So that'll be good to actually do here. So we're going to say, and I'll just do select all. I'll backspace all this stuff here, and I'll just make a new query. I'll just do select all from, make sure you spell it right, states, the table. You always have to specify the table. Where what? Where the name state, where state, and then we're going to do like, and then in a single quote, well, we could use double here, but let's use a single because when we use it in Python, we'll use a single. And I'll put new. So any of the states that start with new, how about that? Or actually just N. And then we'll do a parentheses and we'll do like another quote. And then we'll put a semicolon to finish it off. And then we'll run this query. And we'll hit enter. And there's New Jersey. And it's saying 8 rows. Down at the bottom, this is where it always says the result. So it's saying 8, there's 8. So we found 8 of them. New Jersey, New Hampshire, New York, North Carolina, Nevada, Nebraska, North Dakota, and New Mexico. So there's 2 norths, and there's a bunch of news. And you could even organize things by new, by north, stuff like that. If you wanted to find all the ones that have new, there's all kinds of things you could do with these databases. But it's not my intent to teach you everything about databases, but just that we can do it through Python too. We don't have to just do SQL queries in here in an interpreter. We could do it with regular code in a code editor. We just have to basically embed this stuff in there. So as long as you know how to do these queries, you just kind of stick them in Python. So that's what we're going to be doing next. So I just wanted to go over some of these first, and what I'd like you to do before you're done is do one more query. Let's just put in the first 13 states because I think we're doing like almost a cross thing here between 2 things. So let's just do this. Let's just do select from states, limit 13. There's the first, just that. Just do that for now. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So select all from states, limit 13. So it's just going to do the top 13 states, and that'll be the first 13 that were in the colonies. So I'll hit enter there. Now, let's say you wanted to save all this stuff. Just highlight it all for now. There is a shortcut, but I don't remember it off the top of my head, so I don't want to. There was something where you go like up here, you highlight, and you come down here and you shift and you highlight, and that gets everything. I guess that's it. I guess you highlight something up here, and then you go at the bottom and you hold shift and you highlight down here, and it should get everything. And then you're going to copy it. I'm going to do Command C because I'm on a Mac. Hopefully that'll work. And then what you want to do is go back to Files. Where's Files? Here's Files. And in the databases directory, that's where I am. Make a new file and just call it 24c-output. And make it a text file, .txt. So make a text file that's called 24c output. And hit new file, and there it is, and paste, Command V. Did that work? Yes, it worked. So it puts all of your output in here. So I copied all of that and I put it in there. I know that's a lot, but that's all we're going to do in this video. And in part 2 of 24C, we're actually going to start working with Python. So, or maybe I'll make that 25. But for this one, that's all you have to do. But remember, after you make this file, you have to hit save. And then when you're over here, if you're done in this, you can just type exit, and hit enter. And it will close the console, and it should be closed, so when you go back to your dashboard you shouldn't see it anymore. If you went to consoles here, there'll be no more open. So that's all you have to do. I'll go in there and see it. Now make sure you nominate me as your teacher in account if you haven't done that. A couple people have, not a lot of people have done that yet, so make sure you do. So that's how I'm going to see the stuff you did here for 24C. So that'll be your results for that. So you could just go into 24C coursework and say done, see my output text file, and that's all you have to do. So that's 24C, and then for the next video, which may be 25 or it may be 24C part 2, we're going to start working with Python MySQL and do the same thing we've done here, except do it with a Python file. So we're going to be working with a Python file. Again, make sure you save this before you close it, and then when you go back here, now you're back to your databases. So we'll see you in the next video.